You guys were back with another Stories from the Other Side. These are the top listened. These are the favorite episodes. Everybody wants to know, how did you get through it? And today we have a beautiful story of transformation. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast dedicated to helping women navigate the emotional journey that is divorce. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're trying to figure out life after the big D, welcome to the club. Whether you're contemplating divorce or dealing with the aftermath or any of the many phases in between, the club has got you covered. Each week, you'll hear stories from women who have been in your shoes. This isn't about spilling tea on divorce details. This is about giving you the tools to take control of your own healing journey. Listen in weekly for advice, tips, and tools to help you move through each stage of the process. Welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. Today, our guest, Kristin, not only hosts a podcast, not only runs a fantastic Instagram channel, but has also transformed her life post-divorce. So welcome, Kristin. She's the host of Let's Grow Through It podcast. If you guys haven't heard about it, it's tagged in the show notes. You definitely need to go start listening. But hi, Kristin. How are you today?
Hi, I'm so good. Happy to be here and share my story to help other women going through something similar.
Yeah, because I think I found you on Instagram, God, 2 years ago? 3 years ago? It's been
Yeah,
must
probably
have
about
been 2 years.
3 years.
Yeah, so we were just kinda, like, following each other online. I was so moved by your story and by the transformation, and you and your best friend that started the podcast and kind of how it came to be. I was in the baby phases of launching this podcast and really wanted to learn from you in terms of what you were doing because you had the right message. You were really helping people transform. So, tell us a little bit about your divorce story. How did you get to be here today?
Yeah, so like I can laugh about it now, but it was a very traumatizing time. So I was married for 8 years and then we spent 3 years living on a bus and traveling full time. And it was great for 2 years. And then the 3rd year, we met up with another married couple that lived in a bus and traveled full time. And my husband and the wife of that couple started having an affair. And we traveled together for 3 months. And there's just a lot of really disturbing details that I don't need to traumatize anybody with right now. But it was a rough time. After the 3 months, I had a feeling something was going on, so we left, and I worked really hard on saving my marriage. Like, I was like, "I'm gonna save my marriage." I didn't have the truth, and I was getting told a lot of lies, and, he's still in it, so we're going to couples therapy, and we were doing all the things to save the marriage, and then
Sure.
after 9 months of doing that and, like, literally feel like I was killing myself
Mm.
to keep this marriage going, I found a text message that she was sending to him talking about, "Can't wait until we can finally be together." And then I met up with her, got the truth, and then was able to like, okay, I have what I need now. Like I've done everything to try to save this marriage. And clearly, like this man isn't capable of being honest and telling the truth. And so now it's
Yeah.
time to go. Now, we were a very online family. Like we had a YouTube channel and we had like over 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, like following us on our weekly journeys. And people were really invested in our lives. And she also is like a really big influencer on TikTok and Instagram. So, like, it was a very public scandal that went down and is why I started sharing like as much as I did. And I was like, okay, well, I don't feel like it's fair to these people to just leave them all in the dark about what happened. And also, like, it was really cathartic for me to like share and find other women who could relate and then be able to like just share my healing journey while I was still in it, like going through it. And it's really cool to see how far I've come. Like, I've had some things happen this week where I'm like, the work that I have been doing has really, really helped me. The divorce it was hard, but I think by the time that year of marriage where I was trying to save my marriage and just like being treated like garbage for me was harder than the divorce process. And luckily for the first 4 months after we separated, my ex-husband was still trying to convince me to come back to him. So he was being like very agreeable and please, I made a mistake. We can fix this. And, I still love you, blah, 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 blah. So I filed for divorce during that time. And he was just kind of like trying to give me whatever I wanted during that time. But then I started my podcast and started posting and got back to him. And he wasn't very happy about that. And then he restarted his relationship with the other woman and got her pregnant while we were still legally married. And then they moved in together and started a family together. And so that part was really hard. The divorce part and learning how to co-parent with that person was really hard.
Yeah.
But we've come so far, and he and I co-parent very well together now, which is like crazy to think. And I've even started inviting the other woman to come to things for my daughter. And like her and I still have some things we need to work through. She's still really mad at me about posting online or whatever. And I'm just like, you just have to get over it. In the same way, like I told him, you just have to get over it. You have to leave like the personal out of it when it comes to co-parenting. Like we're not trying to be friends. We're just trying to be civilized co-parents for our child so that she feels loved and supported in everything that we do, and it's been a little rocky with her, but he and I are like great. Like we're in such a good co-parenting space. So introducing her in the last year has kind of been like, I'm like, did I like jump the gun on this? But it's been 3 years and she's still around. So I was like, and my daughter really likes her. So I was like, we got to cross this bridge, So that's a new learning experience for me.
So many pieces in there, right? But I think the biggest one of when you are sitting in a space of being a couple years past it, you're like, oh, okay, look at how far I've come. But when you're in it, right? When you're in the throes, like when you found the messages or discovered the infidelity, like when you're sitting in a space where you're like, God, I think something is wrong, but I really don't. Like for me, I didn't want to acknowledge it, right? Like I was like, God, I'm worried that he's cheating, but I could not say the words out loud because it
Yeah.
felt like such a gut punch to be like, you're the one that's getting cheated on and he's lying. And how could he do this? But he loves me, right? We love each other. We have this whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. And like he was just so good at what he did too. And like convincing me. Cause like I had an idea and I found like text messages that were like kind of suspicious between them and he deleted things. And so like I had an idea that there was something going on between them. But then also it just seems so crazy to me because I'm just like, what? First of all, how would you even do that? We were literally like traveling together. This is really weird. And like, why would you do that? Because we had a really great life. I was living my dream life. And so I think that's what was really, really hard. The hardest part of it, like when I first after the end of the 3 months of traveling with them, had this feeling that like I was losing my dream life. And like I became a shell of myself. Like I was constantly in fight or flight. I lost 20 pounds. I couldn't eat. I had no appetite. Every time that I would eat, I just was sick immediately and couldn't sleep, was always like searching for dangers, like when you're in fight or flight, and I'm like, let me catch him cheating on me. Let me catch him in a lie. Let me catch him doing this. Let me monitor all the money he's spending. Let me monitor his text message. Let me monitor everything. And it doesn't matter. You can monitor everything. A person who wants to cheat is going to find a way to cheat. And he did. And he also found a way to keep me there. He had one foot in our marriage and one foot in his other relationship. And he would do just enough, probably to both of us, to keep us there for him and whatever, while he was weighing out, what direction do I want to go? And that is an awful, it's the darkest time of my life. Like my mind was not a good place during that year. And so that's why when I found out the truth, it was like, oh, I was right. I'm not crazy. He got me convinced that I was crazy. And I was like, no, I was right about everything. And it feels so good to be right. And not
Yeah.
feel crazy.
Right. And we do all feel crazy because you start to question, well, this is how I thought I heard it or thought I interpreted it, but he's telling me that's not what I saw. And that fight or flight totally activates it. We're constantly scanning. Our mind is not relaxed. We can't get to the truth of things. We become even more frantic to get to the truth of things. And
Yes.
what you said, they can offer, all the reassurance. They're going to do what they're going to do. And the thing is that even in a healthy relationship, so trying to find a relationship after having infidelity is really difficult because you have this broken trust. Somebody who supposedly loved you, the one person who was never supposed to betray you, did the thing they were never supposed to do. And so they didn't set out to do that. I guarantee when he got married to you, he didn't think he was going to be cheating X number of
Yeah.
years later. Nobody thought that. So it's hard to trust it again. And it comes down to your internal work. It has nothing to do with checking their messages. And for me, I don't know if you found this true, but for me, the more I did check, the more anxious I got about it. The more I was like, oh, I just didn't find it. So I need to look more. I need to look again. You look and you're like, oh, okay, fight or flight relieved for 10 seconds. And then all of a sudden it was enraged even more because I had leaned into it. I had given into it. And so I had to learn to stop chasing something that is not going to be helpful if you find it and really decide, what do I need? How do I get through this thing? And for you, it sounds, and I'm sure the listeners can relate to, the giving up their dream life. So often you're sitting in a place where you're like, I got all the things. I have the beautiful house that I wanted, or I have the family that I wanted. And do I have to give this up?
Yeah. Yeah, that was really hard. And then it's a grieving process. So, like, grieving that, I would say divorce is really a death. It is the death of your old life, and you have to grieve that. And I feel like so many people just, they don't want to grieve it because it's hard. It's it's grueling to grieve that. And but the more you grieve, the more you can let it go and then feel not feel happy, but feel like excited to start your new life and excited to start building, like you have this new opportunity now to build a life on your terms, not on somebody else's terms. What do I want? After you start grieving the death of your old life, you can start focusing on building a beautiful new life for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. What are some of the things that helped you get through it? Because that dark phase is dark. Like, I remember it. I remember feeling like it was never going to end. I remember bawling on the floor in my bedroom on a Friday night, thinking that like at 35, life was over. What's the point?
Mhm.
What's the point? I'm never going to find somebody again. I might as well move in with my mother. I remember because my dad had passed away when my son was 6 months old. So now my son was about 4, right? So we were working through these parallel paths of, she was grieving the loss of her husband and I was grieving the loss of my marriage. And I was like, I should just move in, mom. Like this, it's just done. Like I should be done. And I know she laughed and she's like, you're still young. You still got a lot of life left, but it felt like that. It felt so hopeless and dark.
Yeah, it is really dark. And I think when I was in the marriage, the last 3 months is when I started doing I stopped ta I took the focus off of fixing my marriage and doing everything I can to please and make this man happy and convince him to love me, and I started putting that all back on me. I need to learn how to love myself. I need to work on myself. I need to just start focusing on myself and what's gonna make me feel happy and healthy and loved, and I really think that also shifted the dynamic in our marriage because then he was like he saw me putting myself on a pedestal, and so then he's like, "Oh, Kristen is actually really great. I shouldn't be throwing this away," but then by that time, it was too late for him once I got the truth. But so I immediately was in that headspace whenever I left my marriage. Like, I was like, "This is me time. This is my growth. I got to focus on healing myself and figuring out what makes me happy." I think the first thing I did that really helped me a lot is I made a divorce bucket list and I made it a goal to check something off of my divorce bucket list every time that my daughter was with her dad. So that way I wasn't sitting at home. It's like the 2 weeks when I first started letting her go with him, because there was like a whole probably like 2-month period where I was like doing supervised visits because I was like, I don't even know who you are. And like all of the lying and all of the craziness that just happened, like I don't trust that you're a safe person to be alone with our child. Like just because he wasn't really around a lot because he was traveling all the time for work. So that he could have his affair. And so I was like, you're not even capable of taking care of our kid on your own. You haven't done it like ever. So once I finally got to a place where I was like, okay, she's feeling comfortable around you, like you can start taking her for weekends. I was like 2 weeks of that, just like with no plans to do and just being like sad about everything. And I was like, this cannot be what I'm doing on these weekends. And to be fair, like that there's a time to be sad. You have to be sad. You have to cry. You have to feel everything. But you have to also find happiness while you're doing that. And so I wasn't doing that those first 2 weekends. I was just like sitting home watching movies and crying and like just being alone. And so I was like, I have to start doing things that are going to fill my soul up again. So I made a divorce bucket list, and that would get me out of my comfort zone every weekend and show me like, oh, I'm capable of doing things on my own. And oh, I'm capable of trying new things. And oh, that was really fun. I really liked that pottery class that I took, or I really liked goat yoga, or there's like fun things were on the divorce bucket list. And then also some go to therapy was one of the things on my divorce bucket list, because that is also going to be a helpful thing after you just went through something very traumatizing like the end of a marriage and divorce and whatever else. That it's just like usually never a smooth transition. So therapy was really helpful for me. This isn't going to be for everyone, but I started a podcast, and I think that was like helpful. Like just being able to express myself and like finally use my voice and not be like shoving everything down and being afraid to like speak my truth, and just finally just being like, this is who I am. This is what I went through. Maybe this can help somebody. Maybe somebody can relate to this. And then healthy habits. So like replacing my unhealthy habits with healthy habits. So instead of like binge watching TV shows the whole time, I was like, let me read a book that's going to help my mindset look at things differently and in a more positive way. So lots of reading, lots of exercising, lots of eating healthier foods, learning how to
It's like
regulate my nervous system, huge one.
is the benefit of having more time, right? It sucks that, now you only have your child 50-50 or maybe a weekend off or whatever it is, but there's now this time where you no longer have to be a mom. And so at
Yeah.
first it sucks, but then yeah, you can work out, you can eat
It's like,
healthier,
let
you can
me
cook
use
for
this time
yourself.
wisely. This is a blessing in disguise, and I have an opportunity now to use this time very wisely to pour into myself and be really selfish. So that way when my child is home, I can show up as like the mother that I want to be. And
Yeah.
also I don't so many women, because I've had posts go viral about this, but and life is just so much easier as a single mom than it is with like a crappy partner. Like it really is. There's no resentment. There's no like managing a man child. There's no trying to take care of him. Like my only focus is my child now and being there for my child. And then I also get a break, and he is forced to be a parent now. And so that is just all around better than being married to a man who is a man child.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that the moment we do invest in ourselves, when you said, well, I stopped pouring all that love into trying to save the marriage and I poured all that love into myself. And that's when they always change. And
Yeah.
so for those of you who are listening that are unhappily married and you are still sitting in that space where you want to do anything and everything to save the marriage. I mean, I spent years in that phase, and every single person, coach, program, whatever that I hired was like, well, invest in yourself. And I was like, no, I have to fix him. I have to change him. I have to do this thing. No, this is that breaking point. If you have given so much to your marriage that you are no longer thriving, that's a really big red flag. And so how
Yeah.
do you take that back? How do you pour into your own cup? Because when you are fulfilled, you shine brighter, you're happier, you're less needy, right? We got less crazies when we're all filled up and happy and doing our own thing.
Because you're meeting your own needs too, and you're not waiting around for somebody to meet them for you who isn't capable of doing it right now for whatever reason. Always that is my advice, like to people when they're like, I don't know if I should stay or should I leave. What can I do? And what I did is, poured everything trying to be the perfect wife. And I'm always like, don't do that. Because you have to pour everything. First of all, just pour into yourself. It's going to be a win-win no matter what. Either you'll love yourself so much, and then it'll attract your partner to be like, oh, she's a person worth loving. Or you'll love yourself so much that you'll be like, why would I even want to be married to somebody who treats me this way? I'm going to leave, and you're going to feel good about leaving. But either way, putting yourself like, I'm always like, You're the prize. As a woman, you are the prize. Like, you have to remember that because we get so confused by the patriarchy and we think the man is the prize. And like, that's not it. You're the prize, babe. Love yourself so that man knows you're the prize.
Yeah. And that definitely, it shifts dynamics. Even in friendship roles, it shifts dynamics, but people love to see other people happy, usually, unless they're real off the charts in the wrong direction, right? But that again stems from inner wounds and jealousy. And so when we can figure out who we are, I mean, if you think about when you first met this person, they fell in love with all of who you were, not
Mhm.
necessarily for what you did for them, not necessarily for like how you built the relationship, but who you were. And so being able to find that again. And sometimes that is the hardest thing. I know you mentioned a pottery class. I did like a quilting class and then I did a cake decorating class because you do have all this extra time. And my friends were still all married with kids and did not have all the extra time. And so you just say yes and sign up for anything to try and just find things that you love again. Find things that fill you up. If you're feeling overwhelmed, exhausted from overthinking, and stuck in uncertainty, this message is for you. You don't have to keep feeling that way. Inside the club, you'll find a safe space to rediscover who you are, clarify what you want, and determine how you want to move forward. Surrounded by women who truly understand and guided by expert support, you are not alone on this journey. Join us at thecrazyexwivesclub.com/the club. It's time to reclaim your life.
You're building the new you, and she's like, when you're in it, you think, there's no way that I can do this. I can't do this. And now looking back, I'm like, I don't know how I ever stayed. I don't know how I ever was that person that I was. And because I've spent so much time like building the new me, and I love the new me. And she's got, so if you're in it right now, if you leave 2 years from now, you have new hobbies, new friends, a whole new life that you could never even dream of or imagine that you could have had. And yeah, it's like there while you're grieving it, there's going to be parts of you like, I love this, but this isn't the life that I wanted. And
Mhm.
that's because you still have more grieving to do to let go of the old you. But now, like 3 years out, I don't feel that way anymore. The only thing I sometimes feel sad about is just that my child doesn't get to grow up in a house with both parents. Like, she doesn't have that. And I'm a child of divorce. And so that's something I always wanted to give to my child. But I know that was a fantasy with her father. Like, that if we would have stayed together, it still wouldn't have been that, great father figure who's showing her how a man should love his wife and what a healthy relationship looks like. And so I've grieved that, but that was the hardest thing to grieve, and it's more because 'cause I'm grieving for my child, and if I look at my child, honestly, like, she's very happy. She loves like, both of her homes, and she's not upset about it because she doesn't know any different. So, she has a great life. She truly does.
Yeah, I love that. It is incredibly painful, but the thing is that you have to feel everything and let it change you for the good to
Mhm.
be able to move forward into something that can be even better. You see it all the time. People feel everything and they get stuck in the feels and they let all the things turn them bitter. And,
Yes.
you and I both have a lot of reasons. There were other women, you know, s- I had to deal with the other woman for 6 years. You're still hanging out, having to deal with that's a lot, you guys. Like, that is so much being thrown at you to say, can you truly love and accept somebody for who they are? We both had to love and accept to some extent the other woman. We had to accept her. She was hanging out with
With our
each of
kids.
our
Yeah.
children. We so wanted to hate her, but I wanted her to be a good person because she was around my kid,
I
you know?
know.
And so being able to move through these things and say, I'm not going to let it hold me back. Being able to move into another relationship and say, okay, yeah, I got trust issues, but I'm going to own that. And then I'm going to work through it. That's
Right.
that's the task. And you said it before. You can feel all the feels. You absolutely can. And then one day you're going to say, okay, I'm done. I'm done crying about this. I'm done being upset about this. Like, how many years have I wasted moping? I'm ready to really take control of my life and build what I want to build.
Yeah, and you don't have to waste years moping either. Like, you can feel the feels and you can still feel happiness at the same time, like, those 2 things can coexist. You can be on your healing journey, and you can be happy in your life, and what I've noticed is I remember, like, when I first left, I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I would be so angry, like, it would be rage consuming my body, like, anger at what they did to me, and it would last for, like, days, maybe weeks, that feeling that anger, And then as time went on and I started, like, actually allowing myself to feel the anger because that was an emotion that I really tried to suppress and not be for
Me
a long
too.
time. I'm not an angry person. Like, no, anger is a healthy feeling. It means that you feel disrespected and you were disrespected. There's healthy ways to manage your anger, though, and there's unhealthy ways to manage it. And like before, I would have always taken unhealthy ways, but I was like, I'm going to do this in a healthy way. And then as time goes on, like if for some reason I got triggered and felt angry, I was able to work through it much quicker. And now, like if something happens and I feel angry or disrespected, if my co parent does something that I'm like, what did you do that? That's so stupid. Instead of lashing out at him, like sending him text messages and spiraling over this for days, I'm like, ooh, I just got triggered. I have some work to do. Let me go sit, let me meditate, let me journal, let me figure out what's really going on here. And then let me figure out how to communicate this in a healthy way. And like anytime I get triggered, if it's like anger or sadness or grief or whatever, now I have awareness of it. And then I work through it like instantly. Like I'm like, okay, I need to process this. I need to work through it. And I'm not spiraling out over things for days, weeks, months anymore. It's like an hour, maybe 10 minutes. Like I'm just like, I just have to have a little, I just have to feel this really quick, get all the stuff out. And now I'm like, okay, why was I mad about that? That's like, I'm like, I don't need to, but if I can reframe it and figure out how I can use this for my growth and my benefit, like I don't have to sit here in this anymore. And that's another thing. Doing the inner work is one of the biggest things that helped me through. There's this book called The Inner Work by Matt and Ash, and I read that book while I was still married. And I use that book like anytime I feel triggered, and it goes through, oh, if you're in this stream of consciousness and you're feeling these things like anger, this is what's going to help you through it. And this is a good way to rewire your mind and your thoughts around it. And here's some good things to do for yourself. And so, like, that book was really helpful for me the last 3 years, just anytime. And I just had a thing like this week where on the other woman like started a fight with me and was mad at me. And I was like trying to be nice to her. And so I was just like, but what started as like us fighting ended up with like me giving her a therapy session because I can tell that you are a very unregulated person right now, and I can have compassion for you as a human. Like, I don't look at you so much as the other woman now. I look at you as like my daughter's bonus mom and like my daughter likes you. And so I want us to be able to like be around each other. And like leaving that interaction made me feel so good because I was like, if you had told Kristin 3 years ago that like she was gonna be helping this woman, no way. She would have been like, no, that woman's my enemy. That woman is the worst. That woman is the reason why my marriage failed. Like, that woman is the problem. That woman, instead of me looking at the man and putting the blame where it actually belongs, like I put it all on her because that was easier because I didn't love her. So it was easier to place the blame on her and blame her for everything that was happening to me. And I would have never thought in a million years I would be like trying to help her. That's
Yeah.
crazy work to me. But that's what doing the work does.
Yeah, it frees you up because it's not that the irritations are never going to happen again. It's not that somebody isn't going to piss you off. It's not that your ex isn't going to do something that's just being a complete asshole. They are going to happen. We're human. We all do it. I still have moments where I like lash out when I don't want to. And then I'm like, oh, yep.
Yeah.
Why are you so mad about this? Like, you really got mad and yelled about something that you wish you'd handled it differently. So when you do the work to become aware of your feelings, to acknowledge your feelings, to heal them, and so often the thing that heals them is us just stop running and look at them, stare them
Exactly.
down,
Yeah.
give
You're
them
like,
a
oh, that's
space.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was talking about I was like going to rewrite my coaching to talk about doing an emotional exorcism because it's not a God thing. We're going to pull out the shit that is not supposed to be there anymore. It should have
Yeah.
processed out. It should have moved on. And instead, it's keeping you trapped. It's holding you hostage. You're constantly reacting to somebody else. And when you do the work and you find what I always talk about my center point here in my heart space, when you find your true knowing, then you can see these other people as just humans having a human experience. They're
Mhm.
having a rough day. She is being triggered by something, or he is being triggered by something. Can I extend some grace? Can I give a little space? Because I know how terrible it feels to be triggered and to
Yeah.
feel like you're out of control in your emotions. And that's how we change this, you guys. That's how we change how our kids see divorce. Divorce no longer becomes a bad thing. We learn how to be unconditional in our happiness, how to extend grace, how to accept people for who they really are, and have boundaries of what we need and how we want to be treated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. And then when doing the work, you have tools too. I have so many tools now for if I'm starting to feel some sort of way, like I know what I can do to regulate myself in that moment, or I know what's going to help me feel better, or
Yeah.
having the awareness of your feelings and then what those feelings mean. And then knowing I know that this is what helps me work through these things usually. Let me do that right now instead of just like what I would have done in my 20s, just like suppress everything. Let's go drink. Let's go avoid this and think we have no trauma. Like I had zero self-awareness in my early 20s, and now I'm like, I don't know how I ever did that. But I wanted to say this because you said something and made me think of this, but doing the work, and so often we think doing this work and working on yourself is so that you can become the best version of yourself and love yourself. But it also means learning how to love and have compassion for all of the parts of you in the past that you will feel angry at first and feel a lot of like, why did I do that? Like, why was I so dumb? Why did I make these choices? Why did I choose to marry this man who like clearly had a bunch of red flags? And you can be so angry and resentful towards past you. And all like a big part of doing the work is forgiving yourself and learning how to love past you and learning how to love every version of you, because every version of you is just doing the best that it could in that moment with the knowledge that it had. And if you're angry at yourself, that's going to hold you back too. If you're angry at the choices that you made in your past, that's going to keep you stuck. You have to learn how to forgive. And I think a lot of times what was hard for me is like I didn't want to forgive past versions of myself because I didn't want to forgive my ex-husband and the other woman either. And it felt like if I forgave myself for the mistakes that or the choices that I made that like I wasn't very proud of, then I would also have to forgive them. And I'm like, so I would just hold on to it. I would hold on to like this grudge that was actually hurting me. And that's the only person holding on to anger and resentment hurts is you. It doesn't hurt the other people. It just hurts you.
Yeah. No, they're like completely unaware that you're over there stewing
Yeah,
and
they
pissed
don't
off.
care.
They don't care. They're
They're all-
down their own path of like obliviousness. In that, to me, anger was a big thing for me too, because he had said, I was always angry. That was the reason that he was justified in cheating, was like I was always crabby. I was always angry. I was always like on him about something. And so I made this huge path of doing the work of relieving that anger. I'm a little fire nature. I get fiery real fast. Like it takes a lot of work to keep this fire calm. But so I didn't let myself be angry for a lot of years. I could be
Mhm,
sad, I could be happy, I could be at peace, but I couldn't be angry. And then I had to learn how to use anger for good, unlock
mhm.
that, move it forward, because it was a piece that was missing. There is a place for anger. But
Yes.
when you keep it for too long, it burns everything else around you.
And I also think like I was a very angry person through my childhood and like my early 20s. Like I was, what do they call hot tempered? Like I was like quick to anger always. And so then whenever I met my husband or my ex-husband and like we got together, I was starting my kind of journey of I'm like a hippie kind of person. And I moved to the beach and I was like, oh, I'm at peace. Like I'm never angry. So I like suppressed my anger. And then when it came back after this, I was like, okay, like obviously I didn't fix my anger issues. I just suppressed them for the last 8 years. So let me work through it. But when you're in that place where your reaction to everything is anger, I love this thing where it's anything but anger. Because a lot of times, like if your first reaction is anger, it's really a protective from what you're actually feeling underneath it. So when you ask yourself,
Mm.
and if you say anything but anger, like what's underneath this anger? What is actually happening below the anger right now? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling hurt? Am I feeling like nobody loves me? No, there's layers. It's anger a lot of times is protecting you from feeling uncomfortable things. And then, but there is healthy anger. Like anger, if it's not your main reaction and you're feeling angry about something, is like, okay, maybe I was disrespected here and I need to set better boundaries in this area of my life.
That's what's so important because even right now, I can sit in a space where I'll be like feeling great, doing things, whatever. You have a little disagreement with your partner. I get frustrated about something. Probably he didn't help me with dishes. It still comes up. Why is dishes always a thing, right? Like forever for everybody. If somebody has a hack on how they don't fight over who's doing more dishes, let me know. But it could be something little and I could figure out, okay, well, the thing really is that I felt disrespected, that I work from home. So my office is in the house. I'm here. So there's this attitude that I don't have a real job because I'm not out in an office, right? I'm creating that attitude. He's not saying it. I'm creating it. But even when I look at that, when I go to talk to him about it, that anger will come back up as a defense mechanism because now I'm trying to be vulnerable. So I can go away and I can journal it and I can get to the vulnerable pieces that really need to be seen and heard. And then I still have to catch myself and be like, okay, wait, you're starting to sound, right? Your tone is turning sharp. Your intensity is increasing. Not what you wanted, but it is showing up because it's trying to protect you. I always think about it as your like shield, your arms. It's like your little like armor guy that's hanging out inside and he's ready to fight for you. And that's his job, but he shouldn't run wild. You've got to know when you can
Yeah, you have
control
to
them.
be in control of it. Don't let it
Yeah,
control you. Yeah.
absolutely. Right. And it's, one day at a time. You don't do it perfect, but then you look back 3 years later or 8. What are we in? Yeah, this is crazy. It was March of 15 when I found out he was cheating. So we're like 10 years for me past all the crazies, and you look back and you're like, shit, 10 years. Look at how far we've come. Look at what a difference it is. Never would have imagined that this is where it's at. And I love everything that's unfolding. And so, you guys, if you're in it, we're here to tell you you are going to get through it. And the cool part is you become somebody completely different. I just saw your reel recently. You were like taking the front of the car off and changing
Yeah.
tires. And I remember I was doing that too. My kid was like, "You can do all those things?" Mine was like, I had to put a new inner tube in his bike tire because he had completely punctured it. So we had to do a whole tire thing. And then I had to install a new sink and a garbage disposal and change a flat tire on my car or something. And he's, "What?"
And I think that's really cool too to let your kids see like, oh, mom is
Yep.
capable of doing anything, mom is like when I was changing the tire, my daughter like brought a popsicle out to me and she's like, oh, mommy. She was really little then. I think she was like 3, but it was just like so cute. I'm like, it's cool that she's seeing me do this, so
Yeah.
she's not ever gonna feel like she has to depend on a man to save her. Her dad is a very involved father and shows up and loves her. And so she's also gonna have but a man can like take care of you too, and that's fine. You
Mhm.
can be both things, but you don't have to feel like a man is your only option.
I love that. Is there anything else you would love for listeners to know if they're struggling in the path? Any other final advice that you have for them?
I just wanted to say, like, whatever you're going through right now, like, you didn't deserve to get treated the way that you did. And I know, like, a lot of times when you're in it, you feel like, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't somebody love me? Why am I being treated this way? And like, nothing is wrong with you. That says how somebody treats you says more about them and their character than you. Is there work that you can do on yourself so that you feel better and so that you don't allow people like that into your life, into your orbit anymore? Probably. But that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or that you deserve to be treated the way that you were treated. And just know that it's scary. I know it feels really scary to think about leaving or think about doing it all on your own or figuring it all out. And just know, like, you're about to find out that you're so much more capable of everything than you ever thought because likely you're in a very low spot right now. You're feeling very crushed and defeated and worthless. And you are about to go on such an empowerment journey and just rise from the ashes. And it's going to be hard at times, but it's also going to feel so good. And just keep pushing through it, keep feeling your feelings, keep doing the work. keep finding ways to have fun in it. And 3 years from now, you're going to wake up one day and just be like, there's that trend that's like, you really do just wake up on a Tuesday and are over it, And it's so true. Like I think there's this thing called the 3-year rule where it's like the first year you're kind of like processing, the second year you're grieving, and then the third year is when you're like really stepping into like your new life and embracing it and like accepting it. And now I've just completed the 3rd year and I just feel so unattached. I just like, I can't relate. I just don't understand how I was ever in the situations that I was in, because I know like I built myself up so much and I just know like I am going to be okay no matter what, because I have tools and I have support and I have community and I have just so much love for myself and surrounded by people who love me. And I know that like I'm going to be okay no matter what. And you are too, but you just have to be here and you have to take the steps to get better from this, not bitter from it.
That is such a powerful ending. If you guys are struggling and feeling like you are alone in the journey, if you guys are struggling and feeling like you're alone in the journey, I do just want to give a shout out to the club. So that is the online space where you are loved and supported and accepted for exactly where you are in the journey. So if you're looking to find your divorce bestie, if you're looking to have the right support so that you can continue to move forward, that's a big part. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That is the process. Definitely go over to the crazyexwivesclub.com/the club and think about joining. So before we sign off, I did mention it before, but Kristin has a podcast as well. There are so many tools out there, you guys, right now to support you, whether they're free, whether they're paid. There's so much availability and access to knowledge to find that book or that podcast or that episode that just unlocks the next step in your healing journey. So Kristin, tell us a little bit about your podcast. And then you guys, again, it's linked down below in the show notes.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Let's Grow Through It. I started it with my best friend who actually went through, we got engaged, married, and divorced within 6 months of each other. Her ex-husband also cheated on her too. The day I called her up to tell her like, hey, I think my husband's cheating on me, she's like, well, I just found out that mine did. So I'm going to say this is happening. And then she moved here and we moved in together and we started a podcast. And the first 2 seasons are like us doing the podcast together. And she's gone back to work and she's had another baby in that time. And so the podcast was just too much for her to do. So the last season has been just me, but we talk about divorce, betrayal, co-parenting, self-love, inner work, just growing through whatever life throws at you. This season, I'm talking about like attachment style and how to just be healthier in all ways is basically what the podcast is about. And I love to get guests on there who have grown through anything and come out better from it. So far, all my guests have been those who have gone through betrayal and then are just sharing their healing journey and how they've just recreated a new life in the aftermath and can see the blessing in disguise of going through the cheating, But yeah, I love it. And then Let's Grow Through It on Instagram and TikTok. And then my personal is Beachy Kiefer on Instagram and TikTok. And I am better about posting over there, unfortunately.
You do a fantastic job.
Yeah,
you do a fantastic job.
Go listen to my podcast. I'm like, I should really be posting these on my podcast page.
I know, but there's so many. Oh my gosh. I have a personal page. And then I have a business page, and then I have a podcast page. It's a lot, you guys. So
Yes.
Find us where we're at. But all of Kristin's links, all of her personal ones and the podcast ones are down in the show notes. So you can learn more about her. You can also read more about Kristin and this episode on the crazyexwivesclub.com under episodes. So thank you, Kristin, so much for sharing your story. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in again. And if you are in that darkness, we're sitting here to tell you there is light at the end of the tunnel. No matter how tiny, a little pinhole at the end of the tunnel, you will get there. And we're here to support you along the way. And that's it. Another great episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast for women learning how to heal from their divorce. Tune in next week for more advice and tips to help you figure out life after divorce. And until then, give yourself grace, do the best you can, and know that this is all part of the process.